What is going on, everyone? Slim here with another Mortal Kombat X video dealing with pressure, Johnny Cage edition. I want to start this one off with a disclaimer that there's no guaranteed way to deal with any character's pressure in this game. There are way too many mix-ups, overheads and lows, projectiles, staggers, too many tools that your opponent can utilize to mix you up. There's no way to always guess what your opponent's going to do, etc. So what this series is to help you guys understand is certain things that you could get out of, certain things that you're respecting a bit too much, certain things you could backdash, get more distance from, punish, etc, etc. So that's the disclaimer. Let's get on to the video. If you're using a zoning character, of course you want to keep Johnny Cage out. That always depends on your character though. Like for Cassie Cage, I can't really zone Johnny because one, he has zoning options of his own, and two, my zoning option isn't a very good one, and his force ball actually does more damage than Cassie Cage's gunshot. So it depends on your character, but if you do have really great zoning, keep him out and contest his zoning. A lot of the times when I'm using Flame Fist, I do a random parry mid-screen about this distance away from my opponent, and that's me just trying to predict my opponent using a range move to get in. I did it a few times against Dr. Stabs, didn't work out too well, but if he did back one during that time that I was parry, my parry would absorb his back one, and I'd have been able to get back to zoning distance and be able to keep him out again. I mentioned this because it's something I do recommend you do if you're using someone who has a parry, because if Johnny Cage just uses forward 3 to get in, I can do that. EX says 21%, or just regular, and just backdash, get back to my zoning, and that's what I mean by just throwing out a random parry if you think your opponent's getting in. It's risky, but a lot of times it pays off. Now that tactic doesn't only apply to parries. Let's say I'm using Kotal Khan and I predict Johnny Cage using his forward 3 to get in. I can do my forward 1, which has really good range as well, and beat out Johnny Cage's forward 3, or at least try to predict it and do it before he does his forward 3. He eats my forward 1, and I'm back to being at an advantage and just waiting for Johnny Cage to make another mistake. So that's another thing I recommend. Try to predict your opponent, try to get in. It's a tricky thing, but it does work out if you get your timing right and if you do understand your opponent. There are 3 strings and 1 standing normal that you actually can't escape if Johnny Cage chooses to cancel them. That is standing 4 cancel, forward 3 cancel, standing 1-1-4 cancel, or standing 1-2 cancel into another standing 1-2 or 2-1 or down 3. All those jails and all those you actually cannot escape. You gotta hold them. I'm gonna represent one of them, actually 2 of them right now. So that is the forward 3 and the standing 1-1-2 cancels. So just watch my inputs. I'm trying to backdash and nothing's coming out. Same thing with standing 4. If I try to backdash that, nothing comes out. One of the best tips I can give you guys is to always keep a close eye on Johnny Cage's run meter, not only to see if he runs out of stamina, but also to see if he decides to do a dash cancel instead of a run cancel, because dash cancels do not link, and you can actually backdash or armor if you decide to get out of Johnny Cage's pressure if he does decide to do a dash cancel. I'm going to demonstrate this with Liu Kang's Dragonfire variation. I want you guys to pay attention to the run meter, pay close attention to the animations of both the dash and the run cancel, and examine the difference between them. So we're going to do dash first. So as you guys can see, I'm still not punishable, but I am at a very substantial negative, just not a punishable negative. So I'm going to do that dash cancel one more time. Ooh. Now this is what it looks like when I run cancel. So as you guys can see, the meter for run cancel is twice as much as the dash, and the animation is a lot faster. So that means it links. As you guys can see. But if I do a run cancel, it doesn't link. I want you guys to also always keep in mind that there are only 4 cancels that jail. So if he tries any other cancel, they will not jail. Now there's some that are plus, so you don't always want to counter poke, i.e. if he does forward 2-4 into a cancel, he's at plus, so you don't want to try to counter poke. What you can do is armor, especially if you have a safe armor or even a plus armor, or you can just backdash to get more distance close and continue zoning him out. If Johnny Cage ever does a standing 1-1-3 into a special move or even a cancel, he is always at a negative, meaning that you can always escape it, or sometimes you could punish or beat out a move that he does. So let's say Johnny Cage does this. I can backdash that. I can armor it. And depending on what character you can use, you can actually beat him out. Now Johnny Cage's down 3 is 7 frames. Liu Kang's back 1 is 9 frames. But as you can see, my back 1 still beats out and it's down 3. So let's say I decide to actually do a special move after that and no cancel. Liu Kang can parry that. But if I do an EX, nut punch instead, Liu Kang can still get out of that. So he can do an EX of his own. And it still beats Johnny Cage's EX. So that's one thing to keep in mind for sure. Cage's EX force ball is +4 on block and +15 on hit. If you're using a character with a 6 frame normal, you would beat out Cage if he decides to do a forward 3 after the EX force ball. And if you think it's going to do a down 4, you can always just backdash, neutral jump punch, or armor. So let's say he does a forward 3 after that EX force ball. As you guys can see, I'm going to show you guys that he actually does do a forward 3 after that. My 6 frame forward 1 will beat him out. Depends on the character you're playing, of course. They can always backdash after that EX force ball, but if you're playing someone who does a forward 3 all the time after he does a EX force ball, and you're using someone with a 6 frame, even if it's a poke, you always want to do that poke. If Johnny Cage decides to do the standing 1-1-4 cancel, you can always actually let go of block after the 1-1, but you eat 7%, and Johnny Cage can actually fake the 1-1 and make you let go of block and just do another 1-1-3, and then you eat a whole combo. So it's a guessing game, and it's also never in your favor to do that. But if you actually do that, you do get out of the block pressure, and if you take a roll after that knockdown, you get more distance away from Johnny. But again, it's really risky. That's one of the riskiest things you can do, and you always eat damage if you do that. So it's not something I would really recommend. Depends on your health, but if you want to do that, that's always an option for you as well. No matter what character you're playing against, you always want to look out for a stagger. This is very important against Johnny Cage though, because it always gives you the opportunity to get back to your zoning and out of that pressure. A stagger is if I do, let's say I do a standing 1, and now the regular string is standing 1-1-3, the 3 is a low, but instead of doing standing 1-1-3, I do standing 1-1, stop, and do a forward 2. The forward 2 is an overhead, you expected the low, so you blocked low, but instead you ate the forward 2. Now, in order to do a stagger, however, you have to stop mid-string. The stopping point always gives your opponent the opportunity to backdash and gather that pressure, or they could always armor, they could do a lot of things. Now, this is what you want to look out for Johnny Cage. So let's say Johnny Cage does a standing 1 into a standing 1. Let me record it really quickly. Another universal tip I can give you guys is to always utilize interactables, sometimes to close distance, but also to get Johnny Cage away from you. Let's say you're using a character who doesn't have reliable wake-ups, you can meter burn an interactable to 1, maybe attack Johnny Cage, or 2, just get away from him. So that's about all the tips I have for you guys. I might have missed a few things, but I think I covered all the most important things. This should help you guys deal with A-list a little bit better. But thank you guys for watching. Peace. 2 is a hive. So if my opponent mistimes that cancel by any minuscule second, which that cancel